evening from Singapore to everyone, everywhere, wherever you're tuning in. Welcome to the WIT Virtual Experience Maker series by Give Me. With this series, we will share stories of creativity and we'll also dig deep into the practicalities of what makes great virtual events. Creativity is the spark, but it is the execution that brings it alive. So we'll be speaking to folks from creative fields from the arts, food, travel, sports, and fashion who embraced virtual and got creative to survive and thrive. So my name is Yo Siu Hoon, the founder of WIT, an events and media platform at the intersection of travel, tech, and Asia. And it's my pleasure to host and collaborate on this series with Give Me. In episode 1, we speak to one of Asia's top DJs, DJ Aldrin, about bringing life back to dance amid a pandemic. Aldrin's world was shattered when COVID struck. More than a year after, dance clubs still remain closed and he had to embrace virtual. At first, he was reluctant, and then he got the first taste and he saw the possibilities, and since then, he's been bringing life back to dance virtually. So let's get the story from Aldrin, and please feel free to chat, ask questions of Aldrin in the chat function, and we'll get them answered at the end of our conversation. So Aldrin,
Hi.
welcome to the studio.
Thank you
How
for
are
having
you
me.
this evening?
Very good. Very well. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. You know, I was so curious to learn about your story and how you got started as a DJ. When did you first discover that first love for mixing and music?
For music, well, I grew up with music in the house. I remember as early as I can remember. My mom always had the radio on. You know, we were always listening to pop music. My dad was a big fan of rock and roll, so naturally he introduced me to like Presley, Elvis Presley, and the likes. And then as I was growing up, my dad would bring us to like Boogie Street. We'll buy like cassette tapes.
Cassette tapes.
Cassette tapes, yeah.
Showing our age.
Yeah.
But I actually know what a cassette tape is.
And then for mixing, for DJing, I guess when I kind of hit 13 years old, I started going to these parties called functions back in the day, which was like kind of organized.
Did you sneak into them because you were underage then, right?
Those parties were still for students, for
Okay.
for people around my age group at the time, and so these parties were all organized like in private function ballroom, like hotel ballrooms, small hotel ballrooms, or maybe like a members club, like Island Country Club or some church multi-purpose hall, and all the kids will get together to have a party, and then you see someone operating the music, right? And back in those days, it was still cassette tapes, and you could see the DJ, playing one cassette tape and then winding the other one with a pencil or a pen,
Pencil.
yeah, to get the other second track ready. So that kind of intrigued me, right? And
And
then
that's when you decided, okay, I want to be the guy behind that, playing the music and mixing it for the crowd.
yeah, that really intrigued me, and then I managed to sneak into proper clubs back then, discos they call it, right, in the 80s.
Right. I mean, you
And
look barely 13 now, so how did
Exa-
you get in? How did you get in at
exactly.
the real 13?
Looking back now, I don't know how. I guess they were really lax at the door, right? And somehow
Okay,
they
all right.
win.
It wouldn't happen now.
Yeah.
But let's talk about then, fast forward to when was your first paid gig, because that you can't like have it as a hobby forever. So
Yeah.
when did you get your first paid gig?
So when
And then what led you where to get to that dream job at Zouk?
okay, so when I was in my junior college years, I managed to land a part-time job at a small club along Beach Road. So I was just part-timing. I was like a relief DJ. I did a one weekday and then a weekend with the resident DJ. And that gave me a first-hand, feel of what nightlife is working in a club. And then that was around 88, it's 87, 88, and I was really slowly getting into this electronic dance music that was slowly
Yeah.
creeping in. It was being developed, and then Zouk came into the scene in 1991. Yeah, but I didn't really know much people around at that time, so I didn't really land myself a job at Zouk until 5 years later. when the
you
opportunity
waited-
arises.
So
Yeah.
you waited 5 years to get a
Yeah.
job. But I want to rewind a little bit because you're
Yeah.
not sharing something which I find really interesting, was that you actually turned your house into a mobile disco. You and your brother got
Yeah.
rid of your parents' furniture and you actually set up a mobile disco at home.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That was actually way before the club gigs, right? So that was when I was 14 years old. My brother decided to start a mobile disco with a couple of friends, and we bought with some bit of money.
That was the beginning of it.
That
you have
was the
very
beginning.
understanding parents, clearly.
Yeah, they had to, in order to store all the equipment, they had to throw out the couch, in order for us to put all the lightings and speakers. But that really, started it all for me because, it was all there. Every day I got up, the
Yeah.
turntables were there, the vinyl was there.
And you took over the job of the music while your brother basically did the sales and development,
Yeah.
business development. And
That's
all that.
right. Yeah.
So then you played a Zouk for more than 10 years. And
Yes,
so
I did, yeah.
I'm curious, like, was it difficult as a local Asian DJ, that you were playing Western music to kind of stand out when, all the celebrity was around the foreign DJs at that time? Was it difficult for you to stand out?
Yes and no. I guess starting off from Singapore at that point of time, yeah, you were kind of overshadowed by all the international talent that was being brought in. But the moment we started to venture out ourselves, right, to play out to like around Asia, to Europe, especially in Europe, when the audience in Europe see, wow, there's an Asian DJ behind the decks,
Yeah.
they're really
And
curious.
where does he come from? Singapore?
Yeah,
Where's that, right?
yeah. A lot of
They're
people
asking.
at that point of time still do not know where Singapore is, and for them, it's a novelty, right, to see an Asian
Yeah.
DJ playing Western music in that sense. So they were pretty surprised, that the music that they like had already creeped all the way to Southeast Asia. So.
Especially
Yeah.
somebody who looks 13 years old.
Yeah,
So anyway, I recall that I first met you in the early days of COVID, right?
Mhm.
And we were talking about the impact of the pandemic on travel, events, and dance clubs, and my world imploded
as well.
as did yours, right?
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts at that time?
Well, when it first hit us, I didn't really think too much of it because I thought, we've gone through SARS,
Okay,
and
it's
I
gonna be a
figured
bullet.
it's about the same, right? So I just took it quite relaxed in that sense. But then, circuit breaker hit us, and then when circuit breaker was lifted, nightlife was still closed. So okay, panic button was starting to press the panic button there. So yeah, and then that kind of led us to
Yeah, so from then you said, okay, I've got to do some. So how did you
Yeah.
sort of think about doing DJ streaming? Because you were very reluctant. I remember when I met you and you go, yeah, people are not going to do that. Who wants to
Yeah.
dance in front of a screen, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get started onto the DJ streaming?
I was a little late into the game because I saw a lot of international DJs that were already getting into that whole live streaming thing. And after a while, I figured, okay, I kind of have to,
you
jump
gotta
on the
do
same
it.
bandwagon
Okay.
because if you want to maintain some presence out there, you need to still connect with your audience. That is the only way at that point of time. And also, I guess I was kind of egged on by a couple of friends and supporters, clubbers that told me, hey, when are you going to do it?
Yeah, and we're bored at home and we like to dance
Yeah.
to your music, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at, what I found interesting was how you evolved, with your DJ streaming sessions.
Yeah.
And so let's look at one of the before videos, before you actually did a proper setup at home.
Okay.
Let's look at that video now. So that actually looks pretty cool. I mean, hot pink, it looks pretty cool. But I guess the setup was a bit basic. Tell us,
It was-
tell us what was the setup.
It was very basic. I didn't have a proper DJ setup at the time, just a small little controller. And that DJ controller was sitting on an ironing board.
Was it your mom's ironing board?
No. So I had a cloth over the ironing board and the DJ controller. I didn't have proper lighting except like a LED mood lighting, that you can change the color. So I kept it like a club color red. And then for the camera, I was using an iPhone to act as a camera. I didn't even have one of those tripod ring light thingy, right? So I was basically using whatever furniture I had in the house, some light boxes, some couple of books stacked up, and then maybe a tissue box just to get the right height. And iPhones these days it's not square edges, so it can't stand on its own. So I had to use one of those office paper clips, the black and silver paper clips, just to have that flat bottom, and to hold the phone up.
Okay, so pretty, like you improvise.
Yeah, like very MacGyver vibes.
You're very creative with furniture. I'm not going to trust you with the furniture in my house. But now, let's look at the after setup, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this was a video that you did after you set up properly at home. And so let's
Yeah.
look at the difference, the evolution of Aldrin's DJ streaming sessions.
This is a test. We repeat, this is only a test. We will keep you updated on our current status.
Well, that definitely looks a bit more
Polished,
professional.
a little bit more
And
polished.
you
Yeah.
actually had time to even change your shirt. I noticed that. So let's talk through the home setup that you had to do. And I asked you to actually capture a video for us and showing
Yeah.
us, how you set up in your living room and how you worked with the furniture that you had. So let's go through the video now. And if you could explain to us the setup that you had.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where my balcony is.
Beautiful view.
Not too bad. That's my living room, and as you can see there is the shelves with the DJ setup, and then a green screen that is basically just pieces of paper from Popular Bookstore, and then there's
Good
a
old
monitor.
Popular.
Yeah, but it works. It works, and I finally got around to getting a tripod ring light standy thing,
Okay.
and
And the ironing board is gone,
it's
clearly.
yeah, and those two light boxes there, those were the ones that I previously used to prop the camera up, the iPhone up, and that's my dining table. So it's pretty much taken up the entire living room just to
Right.
have that set up.
So
Yeah.
your house now looks like that. When we visit, this is what we get now, right?
yeah, yeah.
Well, COVID definitely brought out the creativity in you and, a lot of us, right? Event organizers, we all had to really get creative.
Yeah.
So myself personally, I'm a
Yeah.
really big believer in using music
Yeah.
to help us tell our story better.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's how we met because I asked you to actually compose three
Three songs,
original
yeah.
mixes for our events last year. And I remember your disbelief when you say, "What? You want us to compose the songs?" But basically, we wanted a song that would basically call on our community to unite during this crisis because travel was devastated. And now, let's just play a short clip of how we use your music to tell the story of our event. Let's just play a short clip of that. That was really fun to put together.
Yeah.
I know our agency, Two Spots, love putting it together. Our customers loved it, and we used it throughout the year. And then you also composed the soundtrack for this series.
Yes,
right?
I
And
did,
So,
yeah.
so let's listen to the soundtrack, and then Aldrin will talk us through what went into the making of the soundtrack.
Okay.
I love the conversation. You know, I seem to hear a conversation going on, you know, in that music. So tell us
Yeah.
the inspiration behind the track, the brief that you got
Yeah.
from Give Me,
Yeah.
right? And then how did you put the track to meet that brief?
Yeah. Okay. So the brief was kind of that this track was supposed to be the opening of the series, and when it's played, is people are kind of waiting to watch the podcast of the series. So I figured the music shouldn't be too experimental, right? It should be something that is easily digestible, something that while you're waiting, you can be tapping your feet, snapping your fingers, nodding your head. So that with that, I kind of started off with a nice drum loop, a drum program, and then a nice driving kind of funky bass line. And in the first draft, I actually used a horn section and a nice guitar riff, just trying to be kind of keeping it safe, very
You were
safe.
playing it a bit more safe.
Yeah.
Like you didn't want to be too experimental.
Yeah. But then once Give Me said that, you can go more electronic, I was like, all right, I got the green light now. So I ditched the horn section, the guitars, and I added a couple of different layers of synth sounds. And there was a kind of like you said, a question and answer going there. That's what I had in mind to give it a different dimension. So if you actually listen to the track on the headphone, you can hear the Q&A on left and right.
Yeah, so it captures like the studio conversations that we're
Yeah.
actually having, you know.
Mhm.
So let's listen to it again,
Yeah.
and then let's listen to the conversation that's actually going on in the music
Yeah.
as well. Let's listen to it again.
Yeah, so that's this part. That's like the left and right.
That's me asking question and you answering.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it builds up
Like
to
a
like,
group work.
yeah,
Okay. So it's interesting actually the dynamics between an event organizer that gives you the brief and
Mhm.
then you decide on your own terms to say, okay, I'm gonna play it a bit safe, right?
yeah,
I don't want to be too experimental because this is the first time that maybe you're doing it for an event, and then suddenly you got permission to actually be
yeah.
a bit more experimental,
Which
It's
is really great.
dynamic, right?
Yeah, and which is really great when the client, as we can put it, gives you that kind of a creative freedom. It's a great feeling. I mean, we get free play to do whatever we want.
I mean, that is
Yeah.
vital, right? I mean,
Yeah.
a very clear brief as to
Yeah.
the outcome that they want, the
Yeah.
emotional outcome they want
Yeah.
from the music to make their audience feel, and then giving you the leeway because you're a professional, you
Yeah.
know what you're doing, to then express yourself, So I think that's a fantastic combination
Yeah.
of the dynamic between a client and an artist. So now, all these events though were just kind of dress rehearsals. You ran quite a lot of DJ streaming sessions, right? I attended a few during Circuit Breaker.
Yeah.
I think it was the Island Country Club or something.
Club parties, yeah, on Zoom, and then a few on the other platforms like Facebook, YouTube,
Yeah.
Twitch.
So thank you for keeping us entertained and amused while we were sort of staying home, But as I say, all those events that you did were really dress rehearsals for the big event that you actually just put on March the 27th.
That's right,
It was
yeah.
last Saturday, last
Yeah.
weekend. And basically, Aldrin ran an event that was called Navigating Through the Pandemic. And it's perspectives from a collection of creatives with support from the National Arts Council. And
Yeah.
congratulations on getting the grants.
Thank you.
And so what you did was you brought together various artists to create fresh new music and original GIF art, right?
Mhm.
And it was shot at various locations across Singapore, and I watched it. I actually stayed up, past my bedtime. I think it was about 11 p.m. anyway. I was just waking up actually, but anyway. I watched it and it was pretty cool, you know. And I love the blend of the music, the art, the colors, and the bicyclists
Yeah.
and the dancers kind
Yeah.
of interacting with the music. So let's play a clip from the event because then you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. Well, Audrey, you certainly look like you were having fun there.
Yeah, I
doing
was.
all the
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But it must have been such a challenge to put together because I believe that you worked with 19 artists to put this collage together.
Mm-hmm.
So tell
Yeah.
us about the process of creativity that you went through to put that together.
Okay, so the initial deck that I gave to NAC was basically based on what I've been previously doing, which we saw on the videos. Just a DJ live stream with a single camera facing me, and music put together, and then some motion graphics at the back. But of course, I took the opportunity to include a bunch of other creatives, right? I mean, I wanted to help everyone in this COVID strict times. So I got a bunch of local music producers to produce original music and motion graphic designers as well to do the GIF art. And up until that point when I got a grant, that was just the basic idea. It was still pretty much the same. But and then I told myself I wanted the live stream to be one step up from what I've been doing. So what can I do? So I thought, okay, maybe it's all down to video editing, right? The creative video editing to shoot with different angles, to make it a little bit more dynamic. And then when I finally found the right candidate, who was lucky enough to be all three, he was like a director of film. He operated the camera, and he was a great video editor as well. And with him getting on board, he came up with even more creative ideas and threw it into the whole pot. So and then things started to just develop organically as we went along. Yeah.
So it was a very organic process because you started off with this idea, and then it just, as you collaborated with more artists, it kind of grew and grew and grew. And then somebody else came in and said, okay, we know how to put this together.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've realized at this time with virtual events is the power of video editing.
Oh,
to tell the
yes,
story, right?
definitely.
I mean,
Yeah.
The video editor who actually not only knows how to execute technically, but also has a concept in mind. It's very powerful, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's very important. I mean, it makes that difference,
Right.
because you can have all the great content, but don't put it together right. It doesn't come across right. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you gave quite an open brief, right, to the music producers to say, come up with your original tunes to you. And so the brief was pretty open.
Yeah.
And you told me that it was quite a hodgepodge of music that was quite difficult to put together.
Yeah, that was one of the challenges. In fact, the biggest challenge in the whole project, because like you said, the brief was very generic, just like the theme was navigating through the pandemic. And then I just gave it a freedom to the artists, the music producers, the freedom to just however they want to interpret the music. So when it came back, it was like, whoa, okay, it was quite varied all over the place. So it took some thinking as to how I can put it all together in a seamless way and in a progress well in over 50 minutes. Yeah.
But that's your superpower as a DJ. That's what you do, right? You know how to pull different pieces of music and rhythms together to make it seem seamless.
I hope it came across that way.
But do you feel that, would you have done anything differently? You think in the brief, for example, you say you gave them freedom, it was pretty
Yeah.
open. Do you feel like your brief could have been a bit tighter, for example? Because a brief is really important.
I think
Any
what-
lessons you learned?
Yeah, what I took back from this whole project was it's best to start with a storyboard, right? Once you have that storyboard in place, and then the brief goes out to the GIF designers, the music producers, then it's a little bit more controlled, and then you
Right.
can really tell the story that way. Yeah, so
start with a storyboard, rather than sort of bring
Yeah,
everything
Roja.
together, Roja, and then say, okay, let's try and form a storyboard out of it, which you
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
eventually. So, I mean, there are different processes to get to the outcome, I suppose. As long as you know what is the outcome you want, I think that's also important, right? But
yeah.
then that storyboard is your outcome, actually.
Mhm.
So you start
Yeah.
with the beginning in mind, actually.
Yes, that's right. So that's my lesson, the biggest lesson learned.
Okay, so what were the results? Beyond expectations? Did anything go wrong?
It was definitely beyond my expectations. I mean, when the video editor told me his ideas, I couldn't still really, picture it until he was slowly forming. I was like, wow, okay, that's really cool. In terms of any hiccups, no, I think the hardest part was dealing with the weather when we were shooting.
At Singapore?
Because I should have listened to the crew and they said call time to be at 7:30 in the morning, which was way too early for me. But then now looking back,
You're
it's
just
like
gone to bed, probably.
yeah. And now looking back, at some point you saw the video. We were really shooting at 11 a.m. and there was no escape from the sun. It was really hot. I was sweating buckets, and then we had to go to the second venue to continue shooting, and then it started to rain. And then at the same time, the location that we got permission to shoot at the second venue, a car was parked right in front of it, and we have no idea where the driver was, the owner of the car, and he only returned to the car like 3 hours later. So we had to
had
at
to
some
wait.
point make a call, and we moved. We actually just walked down to a couple of shop houses later down the road, and we asked for permission. They said okay, fine, it's not too noisy, and then we just move all the barang down.
So lesson learned, start early as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so if you have any questions for Audrey, I'm sure that there must be lots of questions you want to ask him because he's an incredibly creative guy, and especially with furniture, as we've learned. Please send in your questions through the chat, and we'll take the questions at the end of the conversation. So I also understand that you weren't very happy with the final edit, actually, and it was half an hour before, and your OCD kicked in, and you said,
Yeah.
"I got to do it better."
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of completed the video 3 days ahead, just to give us some time to make sure that everything's all right. And like you said, my OCD kicked in watching the final cut, and I was like, I really need to change a few things. And the video editor was saying, yeah, we could try that, but there's a risk of not making rendering
The
it
deadline.
in time. Yeah, but I was like, I thought about it. I was like, no, I really need to make the changes, and so we did. And sure enough, we didn't really make the deadline, and the final cut was only streamed the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with artists and also event organizers. Like I work
Yeah.
with a lot of event organizers out there who are listening. Is this quest for perfection. Right? You
Yeah.
don't dare to really launch it until it's absolutely perfect. In the tech world that I write about, they always say launch fast,
Yeah.
fail fast, and then try again fast, right? And how do you enable creativity to happen organically and then kind of be prepared to let go of it in a way, and not try and control it too much? What do you do?
I guess if you're working with a bunch of people, I think it's very important to be open-minded, to be able to accept, suggestions from all directions. Yeah, and just try to work with everyone.
Be open-minded, take
Yeah,
everybody's
that's right.
suggestion,
Yeah.
and grow the idea
Yeah.
kind of together, and
Yeah.
not be too precious about your own
Yeah,
idea.
because
right?
I mean, everyone has, they're coming from different backgrounds, so you are not an expert in that background.
Yeah.
So it's very important to hear what they have to say, what they can throw into the pot.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I really believe that everybody is creative, in some ways, right? And
Yeah.
at this point, maybe let's go to the audience, Aldrin, and let's collect tips from you, because clearly you are all in the events industry or in the creative industry. Share with us in the chat, the tips that you use to get creative. How do you work your creative process? Any tips that you have? For example, for me, right, I know that I'm onto something when I share an idea and people either laugh or they get very scared. And then when they
The extremes, the
yeah,
extremes.
and like
Yeah.
that, and then I go, yeah, I think maybe I'm onto something, and then I will start working on that idea. So I always use that as a cue to say, okay, is this idea worth developing? Did it make somebody laugh, or did it make somebody really scared? So I use that as a. So how do you get creative? Let's collaborate and let's get creative in this session, and we look forward to getting your ideas. Okay, so let's talk about yourself again, and coming
Yeah.
back to you. During this time too, I think you've been producing a lot of original tracks, because there was a time when you were always playing other people's music, right?
Yeah.
And I think you realized that you needed to actually own your own voice. Is that right? Was there a moment when you said, I have to have my own voice?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was kind of like a natural progression. After years of playing other people's music, you wanted to be, in order to be unique, you kind of have to produce your own music and play, and hopefully, other DJs will be playing your music. Yeah.
Right.
So that was the.
I mean, that's the challenge for any business, actually, and even for artists or whatever. It's like knowing what your voice is, and then owning it, and then expressing it in the best way that you know how with your talent. So for the NAC project, the National Arts Council project, the Navigating Through the Pandemic project, you actually produced 3 original tracks.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So I asked you to pick one for us to listen to. So let's listen to it now. So what do you want us to do with that music?
What do you mean? Dance?
Maybe,
Naturally,
maybe
it's
that's
dance
the
music.
first track that I will dance to when we can go into dance clubs again.
Oh, that
it's
would be-
called it's called ARP and
And
Away.
Away, yeah.
ARP and
Yeah.
Away. Okay, so we got a stream of questions coming in, so I'm just going to
Okay.
share the questions. Okay,
Cool.
very easy. Someone said, do you prefer playing with vinyl or CDs?
It's not even any of the two. These days, it's just MP3.
Okay,
MP3,
MP3. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Digital.
Wow, these are all very technical. Are you using Technics 1210s?
Back in the day, I still have a pair of Technics 1210s at home.
Okay.
Yeah, and 8,000 vinyl in in the store. Yeah,
Alright,
but I
okay.
don't really play. I don't use turntables these days. Yeah.
Okay. For you, what is the most rewarding part of being a DJ?
Oh, that is definitely responsive dance floor. To see people going crazy, dancing to the music, that's priceless.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you find, you've played in clubs everywhere. You've played in clubs in Singapore, Barcelona,
Yeah.
I mean, do different cultures behave differently on dance floors? Are some cultures harder to get dancing?
Yes, that is actually true. I mean, of course, we're talking about, this is a Western sound, right? Dance, electronic dance music, the sound that I'm playing, house, techno, progressive house. They came from Europe, right? Most of it. So Europeans grew up with it. So it's in their culture, like for many years, 30, 40 years back. But compared to Asia, Asians, this is not music like, coming from Asia. So a lot of people, and also I think in general, Asians are still a bit more conservative. So they don't really let loose that quickly. It takes some time to warm up, right?
So you have to work harder.
Yeah, you kind of got to work harder for some reaction. But when you're playing the same music in Europe, the reaction is quite instantaneous to you
Right.
because it's already part of their culture for many years.
Right. But the
Yeah.
fact that actually you have to work hard and actually makes it more rewarding actually when then you get a good review, right?
Yes, and that's actually the Asian crowd is the best litmus test for European DJs or for international DJs because when they come to Asia, only those that can really work the crowd are the good DJs, right? Because it's a tougher crowd.
We are a tough audience.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, another question. How do you stay up to date with the latest music trends?
Wow. Okay. I mean, on a daily basis, I get like tons of emails and promotional music. So that's one of the ways. I mean, I have to like sift through a lot of music every day.
So you get people sending you stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
either directly from a label or from like an agency, a PR company that is looking after 20 labels maybe, and then I have to sift through all the music and choose the ones that I like. I mean, 40% maybe could be rubbish, but I still have to listen to it. OCD, right? So I've got to listen to every single track and make sure I didn't miss out the good ones.
Okay.
That's one way, and I visit the record store, the digital record stores, often to see what's new, what's being put out already, and then in these record stores, a lot of times they have charts as well by DJs, so you can sometimes I go and look at DJs that I think are great. I follow their style of music, and I just have a look. What's
your,
hot 10.
Who's your favorite current DJ?
I don't have one.
Okay.
Yes.
I knew
Yeah.
that would be a tough question.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, this especially now that's everything's so in the digital world. It's so easy to produce music these days, right? There's a lot of people making music. I mean, if you go to the stores, there's thousands of music being churned out on a daily basis. So and it's just obscure. People from all corners of the globe making music. Some of them as young as 10, 13, 14, 15 years old. And then they put out a track. So, it's.
Yeah, that's happened throughout. So in the content world, right?
Yeah.
Lots of people creating all kinds of content.
Yeah.
So more questions. What was the final push that drove you to take your first virtual step to where you are now? What was the final push? Desperation?
I guess, no, I wouldn't say desperation. Friends and supporters,
Good. Okay,
all,
so your fans were telling you.
yeah, they were
Okay,
all like,
great.
when are you going to put, yeah. And I was like,
That's
okay.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
like the best push that you could get, right, from your friends and your fans. Has virtual provided you with new collaboration opportunities which you didn't used to have before?
Of course. I mean, look at us. We're here today.
That's
right?
true, right?
Talking about this.
Yeah, I wouldn't have met Audrey if we
Yeah.
hadn't, had our world imploded. And I'm trying to think of a way to use music. And then the NAC project, like
Yeah.
you've collaborated with so many artists, so it really does open up the world to you. Okay, so people discover a lot of music on platforms like TikTok now. A song trending on TikTok reaches millions of people. What are your thoughts on using such channels to reach your audience?
Good question. Well, I mean, I have a TikTok account. I haven't really been very active about it. Still trying to figure out what's the best way to use it, in terms of marketing myself and all that. So I'm still working out. I'm trying to figure out.
Right.
But right now, I'm whatever I see from TikTok, it's not really my thing. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to use this platform.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you right now use YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, right? Most of your streaming is
For the streams,
done
yeah.
on these three platforms.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is a tough one.
Okay.
You asked me
Give it
not to
me.
throw any
Give me.
curveball.
Give me.
This did not come from me. It came from the audience out there. Okay. Did your stream make any income?
No, I mean it was not meant to make any income. Are we talking about just general streams?
Yeah,
or,
I guess yeah.
Yeah, none of it was monetized because there was copyright to begin with, right? All the music was copyright, so there's no way you can monetize it.
Right.
Yeah.
But with the NAC project, you
Yeah.
applied for a grant and
Yeah.
they give you the money to basically produce. And
Yeah.
it's a chance to really test your creative muscle, right? At this time when
Yeah.
the clubs are not open.
Yeah.
So, okay. This is a difficult, what is your fave 80s single and band?
Single.
Yeah. 80s.
As in a single track.
I
Well,
guess
okay,
so,
band.
yeah.
I would.
Say band. Okay,
Band.
let's say, yeah.
I'm quite a big fan of the Depeche Mode.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
because I mean
They've got a great book out, you know?
the music. I mean, along with a couple
I
of
love
other
Depeche Mode.
electronic bands, they were the blueprint. They made the blueprint of the music that I love today.
Yeah.
As early as 1982, 83, that was electronic music already. So
They were way ahead of their time.
Yeah,
I
way
love
ahead.
I love Depeche
Yeah.
Mode. Okay, so let me come back. Oh, okay. This last one is a good one. Do you conduct DJ classes?
yes, I do. That's a good. Yes, I do. Yes, but not online though. It's not virtual. It's a face to face. You need to come
Okay.
to yeah.
So actually, at this point, I want to bring out Herwin, who's watching out there, who works with our agency that produces our events, and he said that he was so inspired by you that he actually picked up learning how to use the deck, and he sent me a photograph, and I don't know if the audience can see, but on my phone there's a photograph of Herwin's
Wow.
setup, and
That's
he's,
cool.
and he's actually really set up at home, and so I've asked him, basically what is he doing with it, right? And
Yeah.
he's got some interesting tips on creativity, which I thought we could also discuss, right? So basically he says now he's trying to tell a story through the music he tries to put together. So he's kind of experimenting with it, right?
Yeah.
And then he says the best advice for creativity is any form of creativity is creative, right? Someone out there will appreciate your work. But I guess the story behind why you create it is the most important aspect of creativity. If you can tell the story, you can sell the creativity. And it's like every piece of artwork, there's a buyer for it. So it's learning how to sell the story of your creativity.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
That's marketing then, right?
Well, yeah, it is, but it is learning to tell a story, right? So
Yeah.
I thought this was quite interesting too, and maybe you'll disagree with it. And he says, it's the story that sells. A lot of creative people are afraid to tell their story, why they create it, because they are introverts. And they just expect people to like their work. Like, they build it and they think people will come. Are you an introvert?
I am definitely an introvert.
So do you have
Definitely.
trouble telling people why you do your work?
Yeah, I don't normally do that. I try not to say too much unless I'm being provoked and asked, questions. Then I would like talk their ear off.
So you have to wait for somebody to ask you.
Yeah,
and then
because
you're
I
like,
don't
okay.
feel that it's right to just be
Yeah, that's the thing about artists and creative people is they just want to do their work and they don't really want to be out there promoting or selling it, right?
Yeah, I mean, selling yourself is a very
But it's not selling yourself; it's selling an idea. So it's different. Okay.
you're just piecing together certain segments of music that they need to have like a skit.
Okay.
It's quite musical. It goes from rockish to musical.
Well, we look forward to listening to it. We haven't got it here because you got to play it at the Kumar, so
Yeah.
we got to go to the show to listen to
Yeah.
to the music.
Yeah.
So we look forward to that. So any tips on how our audience who are event organizers, how can they work better with artists like yourself to inject more magic into their events, whether it's virtual, whether it's hybrid, or whether it's physical? What advice would you give?
Just think out of the box. Try to push boundaries, and when you include a creative into the picture, I guess just let them do their magic. Give them the creative freedom to show you what they can do.
Right.
Yes, that's for a start at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Clearly, we have a few aspiring DJs out there because we have questions like, do you conduct DJ classes?
Yeah.
Maybe you should do them online too. But any tips you want to give aspiring DJs or artists who want to create virtual experiences while this pandemic continues? Because I feel like even as an event organizer, I feel like even after COVID ends, and we hope that it will end, but even while it's going on, this is going to be a part of our world now. This virtual is going to be part of our world. So what tips would you
Definitely.
give to artists?
Um, the same thing, like I said earlier, just be open-minded. Try to do a lot more collaborations because everyone, brings a different game to the whole project. And just be creative, be push boundaries. Always,
Yeah, that's
you
kind
know,
of, yeah. But I think one thing that you've done is you've basically gone out there and you've kind of improvised with the tools out there. You know, I mean, there are tools out there from popular green paper
yeah,
to
yeah,
ironing boards. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
literally, and then to the tech platforms out there. The technology that's out there,
yeah,
and you've really learned how to use that technology to make your work sing and to make your
yeah,
work dance.
yeah.
That's important, right?
It was a sharp learning curve, I have to say. In those few months, to pick up all the new information, learning softwares and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you think this has made you better as an artist? Like, this pandemic, how has it made you better as an
Oh,
artist?
well, I'm definitely more all rounded now. I mean,
Mhm.
I've learned a lot of new stuff like how to do a live stream. What goes into the tech. So I learned a thing or two about production, how to produce a 50-minute music video. I've learned how a little bit about video editing. So I've learned a lot
Okay.
beyond just
Yeah.
being a DJ. Um,
So an all-rounder, and you now actually have the ability to produce and create storyboards, because before you were a DJ standing behind a console
yeah,
getting people to dance, right?
yeah.
So you really sort of diversified your skills.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Thanks, COVID.
I know we have to find things to be thankful for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to swim with the mud. Have you attended any interesting virtual events yourself, and you went, gosh, I wish I could have done that. Any virtual
Um,
events out there?
I mean, I did, I did check out the what
Burning
was that?
Man?
Burning Man. That's right, Burning Man festival. It's usually in the desert,
That
right?
is the event.
Yeah. So of course, because of COVID, they had to move the event into the virtual world, which was really cool because it was like 3D, and you could get in and then set up an avatar and go around, talk to other clubbers, and then go to different areas where you can hear the music. As you go closer, the music gets louder. So it's pretty realistic in that sense. So I thought that was like wow, quite mind blowing.
Right.
Quite
So
mind
that should
blowing.
inspire you to create a kind of a similar festival, right? Where people
Budget
create,
is the question.
get a grant.
Yeah, the grant.
Get a grant. Here's your idea. All right. So we have more questions. Okay.
Okay.
What more do you hope to accomplish while you're still able to? Or have you lived your dream?
Wow. I mean, I think I think because of COVID and what I've learned and what I've done over the last couple of months, I kind of like this whole virtual and doing not just music but it's video. There's visuals involved. So especially after the NEC project, I would really like to do more in that direction
Right.
and maybe not just more but to do it even better, to add more creative
Mixed
ideas.
art.
Yes, mix art with music and just blow people's minds when they watch it.
Okay, well, it seems like there are dots connecting here now, right? It
Yeah,
could be like a festival and then mixed art, mixed media.
yeah.
Okay,
It's
so we
brewing.
have
It's brewing.
it's brewing. Okay,
Yeah.
we look forward to that. What's your opinion on old school DJs versus new school DJs? What's the difference? What's an old school DJ?
I guess they're referring to DJs that just purely play on vinyl, and then new school will be DJs who don't even use any of the club setup, like they just play off a computer with a controller or something like that. I I don't believe in the
Either?
verses. Yeah, and
Okay,
like there's
there
no good.
isn't an either or.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, whatever it takes to get the music out and to entertain people doesn't matter, as long as you entertain the crowd and you get the message across, the vibe across. That's most important.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think the future of live music industry will look like? Yeah, I mean, it's coming back a little bit, like live
Yeah.
bands are coming back in Singapore. We've seen performances come back in New Zealand, Australia, countries where the
Yeah.
infections have been controlled, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that COVID has kind of accelerated the death of live music?
No, definitely not. Humans need that kind of interaction and that kind of entertainment. And I think they will find some way to make it work. And I think eventually it will just get back to what it used to be. I believe so.
Right. I mean, one of the trends that we've seen, I think, is with virtual events, is the creation of like micro experiences, micro events. So smaller, more immersive groups, right, versus the big halls. So maybe we will see maybe a fragmentation of live music as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I guess, and more hybrid kind of events, I guess, right? Mixed
right.
virtual and live.
Yeah, so when the day comes when you can actually run a physical
Yeah.
club in Singapore, right, with social distancing and all that, would you think about then streaming it to a global audience the way that events have done? Would
I
you
don't
think
know.
about that?
Maybe, yeah.
And selling virtual tickets, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Not sure. Yeah, well, I haven't seen. I mean, apart from the really big acts out there like BTS and Blackpink, it's selling tickets for virtual events is still, I mean, there's a lot
Right.
to be thought about, into making how to make that work. So, yeah, still a long way to go, I think.
Right, but
Yeah.
but it is such an opportunity for an artist now to really go beyond your physical space to reach really, really
All
wider
corners of the globe.
audiences.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
such an opportunity, right?
it is.
Even if
Yeah.
you okay. So then another question is: any good platforms for aspiring DJs to get virtual event opportunities?
Well, I think you should. I mean, you should be creating your own opportunities. So, all the platforms out there are, available. They're your tools, right? You have Facebook, you've got YouTube, you've got Twitch, and a lot more other platforms. It's really up to you to find your tribe, your audience, where most of them are. If it's TikTok, it's TikTok. If it's Instagram, Instagram. Just find the right platform where all your audience are, and then
Yeah. So
make use of it.
yeah, so define your audience, right? And then find the right platform for that audience, and then create the right kind of content for that platform, for that audience. I think
Yes.
that would be the net. Okay.
The
So
process,
So I don't know if we, are getting any ideas from creativity flowing in, but there are definitely a lot of questions from the audience, but not a lot of tips on creativity. But I actually want to share something, right? Because one of the things that people always say is, oh, creativity is the domain of suffering artists, or it's gonna be like inspired artists. It has to be like continuous inspiration. Whereas I actually believe it's a discipline.
Yeah.
I actually believe it's a muscle that you can work. And I want to refer to, I don't know if you're a fan of Jeff Tweedy of Wilco.
No, not so
Okay.
sure.
Anyway,
Yeah.
he wrote a book called How to Write One Song. And it's basically a manual on how to actually write a song. And it takes you through the exercise of how to write a song.
Okay.
And so he believes that, again, he says that he believes that creativity is actually a muscle you develop. It's not the domain of suffering artists or constantly inspired. Instead, it's about focusing on the importance of digging deep and finding beauty even when we don't have the time or confidence in our ability to do so.
Wow.
And
okay.
he takes you through steps,
Yeah.
So it's actually a practical course in creativity. And that is not something that you sit back and go, oh, the light bulb comes on and you go, oh,
Right,
suddenly I got an
right.
idea.
Okay.
How do you get your ideas?
Oh, wow. A lot of times just by listening to a lot of music. Sometimes even just from the television, watching Not the actual programs, but like the trailers. You know how they put the trailers together.
Yeah.
That's really important.
That's
because
really the hardest thing, right? How do you condense like a 1.5 hour movie into 30 seconds
Yeah.
right, of content?
So that sometimes jumps out at me. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. And of course, a lot of just looking at art, architecture. I like all this kind of stuff, and especially GIF art. I really like this motion graphic stuff at the moment. So I'm like on Instagram. I'm on following a couple of people.
Okay.
Yeah, looking
Right.
at all
Okay,
this art.
so the question then is next one is, how do you both? Oh, I'm getting a question too. How do you both exercise your creative muscles? What do you do to get inspired? Well, you said you went out GIF art and all that. right?
Yeah. So
What do I do to get inspired? Well, I read a lot, and I listen to. I actually consume content like a vulture, so I just take everything in.
like a sponge.
Yeah, and then I always then filter out what I feel is relevant for me, and then a light bulb goes on, and I always carry a notepad with me, and I'm always taking down notes. So even when I'm walking my dogs and they're pulling me everywhere, I still will sit
something
down.
comes to your head,
I will sit down and I'll actually record it. So because
Cool.
we can't rely on our memory,
Oh yeah.
because there's so much. So it is, and when you then go back on your notes, you will find little nuggets where you can actually say, hey, I can turn this into something. You never know what you'll find if you keep collecting nuggets, right? So that's how I that's what I do.
Quite similar in terms of when I'm listening to music.
Okay.
I have to keep my mind really open, and whatever I'm listening at that point of time, I cannot like pigeonhole it, or I just want to listen to this style of music
Yeah.
for now. So whatever I hear now, like you said, memory, we can't rely on memory. So once I hear it, I have to just think about this now. If it's a different genre, it doesn't matter. What can I do with this song?
Okay.
Then I'll keep it and put it aside. Okay.
So open record is very, very important. So we're running out of time, So before we end, I want to go into my rapid fire.
Okay.
Right, very quick answers, and what's keeping you sane?
Music.
What inspires you?
Music.
Who inspires you?
Oh, creatives. Anyone from artists, graphic artists, architects.
Okay, anyone who is creating. Okay.
Yeah.
Who would you like to inspire?
Ooh, the next generation of DJs.
Okay. If I couldn't be a DJ, I would ...
Be lost.
Best advice about creativity that you've ever been given?
Less is more. Yeah.
Well, I hope we managed to capture that in this series, in this episode, that less is more. I hope that you've enjoyed this edition of the Virtual Experience Maker series by Give Me. Watch out for the next edition, right? Because where we will share another story of creativity, and this time there might be some surprises. It will be about food, something that we all love in Singapore and something we all love around the world. It will be about food and the creativity that goes into food. So thank you so much for joining in, and thank you, Audrey,
Thanks
for
for having
sharing
me.
your jewels of wisdom about creativity and DJ and music. Let's get back on the dance floor as soon as we can.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thank you, everyone.